All of this started after I retired. 30 years of blood, sweat, and tears at the post office. At first, I thought I'll enjoy the peace, but getting used to being at home day after day was harder than I ever imagined. The boredom ate me up until I felt like pulling out all my hair. I spoke to all my retired friends and tried every hobby under the sun, crocheting, building Legos, you name it, nothing stuck. And being single just made everything worse. I started posting constantly on social media about how bored I was. It became a running joke, my endless complaints, until one day I got a notification that changed everything. I was invited to be a guest on a new game show called Alive or Unalive. The description was vague and unsettling, but the grand prize was $10 million. All I could think about was the flights I could book, the cruises I could take if I won. The application form for the show was ridiculously long. Over 100 pages. I skimmed through the first few, but who has time for that? I skipped to the end, signed my name, and sent it off without a second thought. About 5 days later, I received a cryptic email. A limo would be picking me up in 5 hours. The excitement was overwhelming. When the limo arrived on time, I hopped in and barely able to contain myself. We drove to the show's location, and as soon as I stepped out, a man took my phone from me. No pictures, no phones allowed, he said. I was a bit surprised, but chalked it up to the show's security. After all, it was a brand new game show. I was quickly escorted to the stage and introduced to the hosts. The audience was already seated, and they weren't your average crowd. They looked like billionaires and high-profile socialites, people far removed from my world. I didn't have time to think before the lights dimmed and the host asked, "Are you ready?" Full of excitement, I replied, "Yeah!" But the excitement turned to dread in an instant. The curtain rose, revealing a man handcuffed to an electric chair. This man, the host began, is homeless, no friends, a failure to his family and to his country. You have a choice for $100,000. Should he be alive or unalive? I was frozen in shock. I couldn't answer. I refused. The host leaned in, his voice cold. "If you don't choose per the agreement you signed, you would take his place." Panic rushed over me. Fear and regret mixed into a sickening pit in my stomach. I chose me and watched in horror as the switch was pulled. The crowd erupted in cheers, their excitement buzzing in the air. I was horrified. But the show wasn't over. The host grinned and announced, "Next, we have a woman, 40 years old, who has lived off the system her entire life, never worked a day in her life, a true waste of fresh air." The curtain rose again, and there she was, handcuffed to the edge of a diving board, tears steaming down her face. The host turned to me, now, for $1 million, alive or unalive." My heart pounded in my chest. I hesitated, but in the end, I chose unalive. I squeezed my eyes shut, and the sound of the splash echoed in my ears as the audience roared with approval. The final round approached. "Now for $10 million, the host said, his voice dripping with tension. "We have a child, 10 years old, born out of wedlock, abandoned in front of a fire station." The curtain lifted, revealing a young girl strapped to a table with an executioner standing over her saw in hand. I froze, paralyzed by the sight. My mind raced. In the crowd shouted, "Do it! Do it! Do it!" The host repeated, "Alive or unalive?" I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. But in a burst of desperation, I screamed, "Alive, damn it! Alive!" I collapsed to my knees, tears flooding my face. That was 2 days ago. Now, as they strap me into this electric chair, I wait for someone else to decide my fate.